ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीहरिं परमानन्दम् उपदेष्टारमीश्वरम् व्यापकं सर्वलोकानां कारणं तं नमाम्यहम्। अपरोक्षानुभूतिर्वै प्रोच्यते मोक्षसिद्धये सद्भिरेव प्रयत्नेन वीक्षणीया मुहुर्मुहुः। So from the verse 102, Yamo hi niyamastyagah maunam deshascha kalata asanam moolabandhascha deha samyam cha druksthithi prana sanyamanam chaiva प्रत्याहारश्च धारणा आत्मध्यानं समाधिश्च प्रोक्तान्यङ्गानि वैक्रमात्। So this is the Angani, Tripanchangani, 15 limbs or the 15 steps. 15 limbs or 15 methods really of nididhyasam, meditation upon Brahman. For the one who has knowledge of Brahman, this becomes nididhyasana. For the one who has not gained the knowledge, in spite of repeatedly listening to Vedanta, this becomes meditation. In which case, when I say I am Brahman, I superimpose the idea of being Brahman on myself. So, either I see myself as Brahman, that's called nididhyasanam, or I superimpose the idea of Brahman upon I, that becomes the upasana, or that becomes meditation. Of which the author explained Yamaha, we saw Niyama and Tyaga. These three we saw. So 104th verse said, Sarvam Brahmeti Vijnanad Indriya Grama Sanyamaha. Yamo yamiti samproktaha abhyasaniyo muhurmuhu. Yama is called restraint, where all my sense organs, mind is all restrained. So it is a practice of restraining oneself. Here, the Vedantic teacher says that how you can bring about a complete restrainment without any effort. How knowledge alone can bring about a total restrainment. How? Sarvam Brahmeti Vijnanat. What is all Brahman? Iti Vijnanat. By this knowledge that what is Brahman, Indriya Grama Sanyamaha. Automatically, when everything is Brahman, there is no reason for any agitation at all. Everything is Brahman, myself, limitless. So what is this Purnam? What is this limitless? There is no scope for any attachment or aversion, no scope for any reaction at all, no scope for an impulse. That being the case, when there is no impulse, no agitation in the mind, then mind naturally becomes silent. Again, there is no fascination or anything because Ananda is my nature. The question of my being fascinated or attracted towards anything doesn't remain. So sense organs also are resolved, they are also silent, and they also happily reside in their locations. So by the knowledge that what is Brahman, that I am Brahman, and Brahman means complete, whole, limitless, that's all there is, then all there is Ananda, fullness, in which there is no scope for any reaction, and there is no such thing as out and in, really speaking. See, when restraint comes, then you find your mind goes out someplace and then you bring it back. Your sense organs are out somewhere, you bring it back. Where is out? When everything is Brahman, everything is self, there is no out and in, there is nothing bringing back. What is this complete? So this is the vision that automatically this vision brings about a complete resolution of my sense organs and mind. So this knowledge brings about yama or restraint, which otherwise is a practice. But here, this knowledge itself brings about a complete restraint, meaning that effortless restraint. It can't be called restraint. But what you get by restraining in terms of the mind being focused in its or located in its location, that automatically happens. Niyama sajade vritti pravahascha vijate tiraskriti. So this is when you meditate, then you maintain the flow of thought, flow of the thought of the flow of the thought of the same object. Sajati pravahascha. That everything is Brahman. Sajati pravaha, maintaining a thought flow, everything is Brahman. I am Brahman. What is this Brahman? Vijatya, because of habitual error, if that thought I am Deha comes, then you remove that and maintain I am Brahman. Now what is this Brahman? This is called Tyagaha. This is the Niyamohi Parananda Niyamat Kriyate Buddhahi. This Niyama brings about. So what is Niyama here? What's the rule that you follow? The rule that you follow is that you maintain a flow of thought that what is Brahman, I am Brahman. In that, whenever you find the opposite thought arising from the habitual identification of the body, you alertly remove that. And what remains is Parananda. Because Brahman is the self is Parananda. So Niyamohi Parananda, this Niyama, this practice, you do it happily. Niyamat Kriyate Buddhaihi. So Buddhaihi, by the wise people, this kind of a Niyama of maintaining that flow of the thoughts that I am Brahman, everything is Brahman, that what is Ananda? They happily do that. Who will not want to do that? To be Ananda, to abide in Ananda. Tyagaha prapancha rupasya chidatmatva avalokanat. By seeing the fact that what is this chit? That every name and form, in fact, is a vehicle for manifestation of consciousness. Just as every ornament is a vehicle for manifestation of gold, every pot and pan is the vehicle of manifestation of clay, and so also every name and form is a vehicle for manifestation of material cause, consciousness. So chidatmatva avalokanat. Chit is the Atma, Swarupa of anything. What is Chit or consciousness. What I am also is consciousness. Meaning that by this vision, just as when I see this object as clay, the partness is already renounced. Because I cannot see it as clay unless I renounce the partness. And renunciation of partness also is knowledge that partness is mithya. Why Satyam is clay? And so, this prapancha, name and form, is only a reality, is chit or consciousness. And thus, by seeing consciousness as the self and as all pervasive, automatically the name and form is dropped, is let go from my mind. Just as when I see a beggar on the stage, and appreciate that as an actor, recognize who that actor is, in my mind, the renunciation of beggar has taken place. You follow? How do I renounce? Not with any aversion. It's something mithya. If it is there, I have no problem with it. Even if the beggar is there, I have no problem because that costume does not in any way deny my knowledge that this is actor. So names and forms don't in any way deny the knowledge that this is consciousness, or I am consciousness. So by seeing the mithyatvam of name and form, you renounce them because that's a real renunciation. When something is known as mithya, then it no more becomes a botheration to the mind. So this is tyaga prapancha rupasya. Seeing prapancha, the universe as nothing but consciousness, amounts to the renunciation of all names and forms. Tyagoi mahatam pujya. This is the tyaga, pujya, which is most revered by the great people, by saintly people, by wise people. Why? Sadhyo mokshmaya yataha, because sadhyo mokshmaya, it is of the nature of, immediately of nature of moksha. When immediate, as the moment you see that what is consciousness is free, so that knowledge itself is moksha. Not that between knowledge and moksha there is some intervention. To see that what is consciousness, to see that what is the self, to see that what is whole, that is liberation. So seeing itself is moksha. Sadhya, immediately there is moksha. Between seeing and moksha, oh now I see that this is, therefore I am liberated. No, see, seeing itself is moksha. So tyaga is explained. Now, next is maunam. Yamohi niyamas tyaga maunam. So in verse 107, the author explains maunam means silence. So silence also is a vrata. For meditation, silence also is a vrata or a niyama or a vow that you take, a discipline that you observe. Silence is a great discipline, which the yogis do observe, which all seekers do observe. So, as it is called Vak Tapas in the Bhagavad Gita. And Shankaracharya also says, Natu vrtha vakyam samuccharyata. Do not utter any word which is not necessary, which is vrtha, which does not serve the purpose. Lord Krishna says, Satyam prihitam syat. You should speak only when what you speak is satyam, truthful, hitam, beneficial, priyam, pleasant, hitam, beneficial. Then only you speak. So that way, maunam is vak tapas. Tapas or penance at the level of speech, which is considered a very important spiritual discipline. Alright? So, how do you prescribe that we should observe silence? So verse 107 says, Yasmad vacho nivartante Aprapya manasa saha Yan maunam yogi bhirgamyam Tad bhavet sarvada buddha. So what is maunam? Again, maunam means Brahma. Because real silence is, Brahman is a real silence. But there is no silence where there is no scope for a sound. Silence meaning absence of sound, of course, is silence. Absence of speech also is silence. So normally what we understand by silence is absence of speech. But here is the supreme silence, where speech has no scope. See, when I am observing silence of the nature of absence of speech, then the presence of speech breaks that silence. Because silence is a state of speech. But the true silence is when the speech has no speech cannot exist. Speech cannot be, word cannot be, sound cannot be. Meaning that I don't have to make any effort to shut off the sound. I don't have to make any effort of shutting off my organ of speech. Because observing silence sometimes becomes quite difficult. Particularly when a person is talkative and then there's some urge to say something. Sometimes we are accustomed to always say, hey, you don't do this. So some people are always accustomed to, pointing out everything, correcting everything, instructing and so on and so forth. So it's difficult to remain silent when you see things. So then with gestures, and say, hey, don't do that also. Then with, face, with something you do, and if you don't do that inside you are, quite agitated. So silence as a discipline is good. It prevents damage if nothing else, which would occur by speaking what is not appropriate. But here it is not observing silence. Tad bhavet sarvata buddha. The wise person should always become this silence. You become the silence. Not practice silence, become silence. How can you become silence? Because you are silence. So, Atma, the self, can also be described as silence. Brahman or the self or consciousness can also be described as silence. Not so much by stopping the words, but particularly because of the absence of words, where the words cannot reach. So, yato va yasmad vaso nivartante aprapya manasasaha. This is simply the statement from Taittiriya Upanishad. Instead of yata, say yato vaso nivartante aprapya manasasaha. So what is Brahman is described in the Taittiriya Upanishad this way. In a negative way you can say, Yasmad vacha nivartante. That from which the mind nivartante. So vacha, the words, nivartante, turn back. Yasmad, from which? From which the words turn back. aprapya, without reaching. So that from which the words turn back without reaching, manasasa, and bring the mind also along with them. So when words come back, they drag the mind also back. Meaning where the words and the thoughts. You said, words and thoughts always go together. Word and concept always go together. Whenever a word is uttered, it creates in our mind a concept. Therefore there is a word and manasasa, aprapya manasasa, the speech and the mind, or the word and the thought, or the word and the concept, because they always go together. So wherever word reaches, that is where the concept also will reach. Meaning when you can describe something in word, then you conceptualize it. What is Brahman? Where the words has no scope. Words cannot reach. Meaning that it is not available for any description. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vak gacchati, na manaha. Says Upanishad, na tatra chakshur gacchati. The eyes, meaning the organs of perception, have no scope, no reach. It's beyond the reach of the organs of perception. The vak gacchati is beyond the reach of the organs of action, including speech. Na manaha, your mind also cannot reach there. How can they reach? They are all designed. Paranchi khani, vyatuna swayambhu paranchi. All of these have been made extrovert. Meaning that their scope of activity is always out. So, organs of perception can see what is out there. The words can describe what is out there. The mind can visualize what is out there. The mind cannot visualize the visualizer. The words cannot speak the speaker. Meaning, the subject is beyond the scope of the organs of perception, organs of action, and words and thought. And so, therefore, therewith words try to reach, like the eyes tries to reach the sun and melts in between. And so words also disappear, thought also disappears. What remains is what you call silence. The true silence where there is no possibility of any sound. And when the mind is no possibility of any disturbance at all, there is not a ripple of thought at all, when you are yourself. So, tad bhavet sarvata buddha. The wise should always become this silence, which is the self. Yasmat vacho nivartante, that from which the words return, manasasa, along with the mind or thoughts, aprapya, without reaching which. Meaning that when you contemplate upon yourself, to see yourself, words are not necessary. Sense organs are not necessary. We need not feel frustrated. How can Swamiji, this mind also cannot, you can't visualize my mind? You can't describe in words? You cannot perceive with organs of perception? Looks like impossible. No. If that's a blessing, so stop doing it. Meaning that cannot describe in words, stop it. Cannot visualize by the sense organ, stop it. Cannot visualize the mind, just stop it. And therefore, when you stop seeing or perceiving, when you stop describing, when you stop thinking or contemplating, conceptualizing, when all activities stop, then what will remain is you. See, what the Yoga Shastra seeks to do. Yesterday he said, Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga means stoppage of all the thoughts. So all of that is based on focusing attention on thought. And then you stop it. Here, all of this is based on focusing attention on the self. You understand? So thoughts automatically stop. You focus attention on thought and then try to stop them and control, etc. Vedanta, why worry about thoughts? Just be yourself. Thoughts have no scope there at all. Words have no scope, and therefore you are silence. Then silence no more remains state of the speech. Silence no more remains the state of the mind. Usually that is what is called silence. But in fact, even the word silence also is not applicable. It's even the lakshyartha or the implied meaning of the word silence also. But yan maunam, that silence. Yoga vihigamyam. That silence you cannot attain by an effort. The silence that takes place by letting go of every effort. No sense perception effort, no effort to describe, no effort to visualize, no effort to think. When all of this is given, then yan maunam yogi virgamyam. Maunam that is attained by the yogis. Tad bhavet sarvada buddha, that very self. Buddha sarvada bhavet. May the wise person become the silence. Then therefore become the silence. It is not that you silence your mind, not that you silence your speech, you become silence. Because consciousness is silence. There is no word, no thought. Tadahasmit anusandadhyat, or one can meditate, I am silence. Silence I am. So, maunam I am, shantoham. Going to the next word. So, this silence is further explained. The author seems to feel it necessary to explain silence or maunam in more than one verses. No idam pratyek abhinna brahmanusandhanam dhyanarupam chaturdashamangam pratiyade. So somebody asked a question of the author that when you outlined the 15 steps of this yoga, the 14th was Atma Dhyanam. The 14th step was Atma Dhyanam. So the way you describe your silence sounds like Atma Dhyanam. Meaning that yogi tad bhavet, may you become silence. Thus, I am silent. May you meditate that I am silence. So looks like your prescription of maunam is essentially equivalent to Atma Dhyanam, meditation of oneself, which is maunam. So what's the difference between this step called maunam and the step called Atma Dhyanam, meditation of oneself? To us looks like both are the same. Alright? Iti asankya swarasyat. And so the author also feels that, yeah, I think your objection seems to be fairly justified. So prakarantara maunam eva lakshayati. Therefore, in a different way now the author explains maunam. Sardhena. Sardhena means what? Ardhena sa means what? In 1.5 verses. So, author explains that. Yeah. Vacho yasman nivartante tadvaktum kena shakyade prapancho yadi vaktavyah sopi shabda vivarjitah iti va tadbhaven maunam satam sahaja sannidham gira maunam tu balanam prayuktam brahmavadibhi. So, vacho yasman nivartante, that from which the vag or these words turn away without reaching, tadvaktum kena shakyate. So now the maunam is of a different, the same thing is described in a different way. What is maunam? Silence is the absence of speech, is called silence. It's all right, you want to say something. So, you can say something when you want to describe something, when you want to communicate something, right? When do we use words? When do we say something? When we want to describe something. We want to communicate something. So what something are you talking about? I want to talk about a pot. What is this pot? You want to talk about this pot? What is this pot? It is clay. Is it clay? It is what? Asti bhati priyam. So then if you want to describe the pot, what pot really is, you describe asti bhati, which does not lend itself to description by words anyway. Because that alone you can describe, which is Shabda Pravritti Nimitta is there, only when something possesses the characteristics which make it available for describing by words. Anything that can describe in words, only if it possesses certain attributes. Like jati. You can describe something based on jati or the species, that this is an animal, this is a human being, this is a tree, this is that. Or the brahmana, kshatriya, man, because what is born? So what is born can be described by the species in which it is born or by the designation that it has, that can describe. Kriya. Anything that has some activity can be described. So a person can be described by the person, or something can be described by the jati, species to which it belongs, or something can be described by the kriya, the action that it performs. Like a cook, like a driver, like a teacher. So these are the description based on the action that an individual performs. So a thing can be described by the jati, the species to which it belongs. It can be described by the action that it performs. Guna, in case it possesses some guna or virtue or quality, like it is red, it is yellow, it is good, it is bad, it is beautiful, etc. So jati, kriya, guna, sambandha. Somebody can be described based on the relationship. The secretary, So secretary means somebody related to the boss in certain way. Cousin. So it's a relationship. So I can describe a person based on this kind of relationship. So jati, kriya, guna, sambandha, or rudi, or this, or something can is, it is just a name. Devadatta, Yajnayatta, etc. So if an entity possesses one or more of these attributes, then alone it is available for being described in words. But Brahman doesn't have jati because it is birthless. Only that which is born is a jati. Kriya, Brahman is actionless, there is no kriya in that. You can't describe Brahman is, creator, sustainer. It's not, that kriya also is not there. Brahman is great, jati also is not there. Even guna is also not there. So that is nirgunam, doesn't have guna. Nishkriyam, doesn't have karma. Ajam, doesn't have jati. Asanga, doesn't have sambandha, relationship. So Brahman being what it is, cannot be described in any conventional way, any ways that are available to us for describing something in words. Brahman doesn't fit into that. So now you want to talk about a Brahman. What will you do? You just will remain silent. So how do you attain silence? Simply try to describe Brahman. You become silent. Pacho yasman nivartante tad vaktum kena shakyate. Who can describe that from which the speech returns, meaning that which is beyond the scope of speech? which does not possess any attribute which will make it available for being described in speech. So, kena sabdene, in what word can you describe? Kena prakarana, in what manner can you describe? Kena vaktara, who can describe? In no way Brahman is available for words. Therefore, when you want to use word for Brahman, you become silent. The only way that you can communicate Brahman is by silence. You use a word and then you already qualified it. The only way you can come. So, Mauna Vyakhya, Prakritapara Brahma Tattvam, Dakshinamurti is described as one that communicates in silent sermon. Silence is the nature of the self, and that self is conveyed in silence by Dakshinamurti. So they were, alright, suppose you want to describe the world. So Brahman you cannot describe, not available for description in word, therefore the moment you utter Brahman, want to talk about Brahman, you have to remember the only way you can do that is by silence, being silent. Suppose you want to talk about universe, prapancha. Prapancho ide vaktavya. Suppose you want to talk about prapancha. What this is, want to talk about this, describe this. So vi shabda vivarjitaha. Even this also is not available for being described in words. Before description, you have to come to this basic conclusion. Is this object sat? Is this sat or asat? For example, rope snake. Ask the question, rope snake is or is not? Rope snake is or is not? Please tell me. Is or is not? क्या बात है? Simple question. Is both? All the Vedantic scholars are now saying, So you cannot say that rope snake is, because what is cannot not be. And when you show a torchlight there, the snake is no more there, therefore you can't say snake is. Satchetna badhyeta, if it is, then it cannot not be, and when you show the torch, the snake is no more there, you can't say it is. But you can't say it is not. Asachet na pratiyeta. Had it not been there, it would have been perceived. The fact that you perceive that, therefore you cannot say it is not. And the fact that it doesn't remain, when you really investigate, you can't say it is. So I ask the question, is it or is it not? None of the answers is, in fact this is a question which cannot be answered. If your choice is or is not, there is no choice because you cannot say it is, nor can you say it is not. So describe the snake, use a word for it. All right, Swami, that's about snake. What about this? This is a pot. What is this? Is it or is it not? The universe also, in reality, is not substantially different from a rope snake. Because just as a rope snake is a projection, so also is the universe. Lord, talk about the dream world. That will be easier. Is the dream world, is it there or not? Swami, I cannot say it is not there because I experienced it. I felt it. But I can't say it is because nobody remained with me. I won a lottery there and I had $1 million and I don't have a penny now. How about the dream elephant? Is it there or not? It can't be there because there is no scope for elephant being there in that little place where I am experiencing dream. But I experience it. Since I experience, I can't say it is not. At the same time, I can't say it is because it is not probable at all. So just as about dream world, you cannot say it is. You cannot say it is because there is no dream world once you wake up. You cannot say it is not because while you are in dream you very much experience it. It's called mithya. So basically it does not lend itself in being described as is or is not. Then where is the question of other words? Basically this word itself you cannot use that it is or it is not. And so also the waking world is also a projection. You cannot say it is not because you experience it. You cannot say that it is because in deep sleep you don't experience that, Had it been there, you cannot get rid of it. Something which is there, Lord Krishna says, Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate asataha. Asataha. That which is can never not be, and that which is not can never be. So if the world was there, it could never not be, but in deep sleep it is not. If it is not there, it can never be, but then in the waking state it seems to be there. So this world also does not lend itself to being called is or is not. That's the only two words we have, really. We don't have a third word. Therefore, prapancho ide vaktavya. If you have to describe prapancha, so be shabda vivarjita, that also is shabda vivarjita, is devoid of words, is or is not. And therefore, neither Brahman, so you want to talk about Brahman? If you really want to talk about it with understanding, the only way you can communicate Brahman is just by being silent. That's the only thing that's applicable to Brahman, because use a word means you are defining it. You have to communicate the universe, again because you just have to become silent. Even to describe the prapancha. So for the wise person, he doesn't know, there's nothing to talk about. Iti va bhavet satam sahaja sangyadam. Satam, for the wise people, sahaja sangyadam. Sahaja? Janmana sahaja, that which is born along with you is called sahaja, which is natural, which is effortless, which is, inherent. Satam saj, this is the maunam or silence inherent for the wise people. The very nature of the wise people. So the maunam silence that we are talking about is what? Is inherent nature of the wise people. It's inherent in everybody, but for the wise person, it becomes just inherent. It becomes effortless. Because he knows word does not do anything. Word has no meaning at all. A word cannot mean Brahman. A word cannot mean Prapancha. A word has no meaning at all, and there was no point in using words, and therefore what remains is silence, which is the self. Sahaja, which is the inherent nature. So that's another description of Maunam that is given. In case you did not like the previous, not satisfied with the previous one, thinking that explanation or description was like Atma Dhyanam, then here is real Maunam. Because you can't communicate Brahman, you can't communicate world, you can't communicate anything, because word just does not convey what you want to convey, and therefore when you realize that, you just become silent. Is it not so? Sometimes we become silent because we don't know what to say. Or we find that there's nothing to say. You have no word to describe what is. So the silence that arises is from knowledge. You understand? Silence two ways. Either you restrain your speech, or by knowing what is, you realize that the word has no scope at all, and therefore automatically becomes silent. So sahaja sanjitam. For the wise person, that silence is something natural, not something with an effort. Hey, but wait a minute. Silence is always prasiddham. Vāṅnyamane prasiddham maunam. But silence means restraining speech. That's how the word silence is known. And you are talking about silence in this way. You are describing maunam or silence in a very strange way, he says. Because the word silence or maunam is well known as restraint of speech. So yeah. So last line is gira maunam tu bharanam prayuktam brahmavadivi. It is true. Brahmavadivi prayuktam. Brahmavadivi, by the speakers or teachers of Brahman, meaning those who want to communicate or those who want to teach about Brahman to their disciples. Bharanam, for the immature people. So Bala means children of immature people. That is true. That the sages do prescribe maunam, silence, as restraint of speech for those who are still immature. Those who are mature, meaning those who know what a word can do, realize that word cannot do anything. There is no scope in describing Brahman, there is no scope in describing the universe, there is no scope there where that knowledge in itself brings about a cessation of word. So that's the natural silence. But when you're not ready for that kind of silence, okay, don't talk. So restraint of speech is silence for the other people. Balana, for children meaning for the immature people. So this is maunam. Now next is desha. So when you meditate, they also prescribe the place and time. Sucha udeshe pratisthapya, that's all right. But then, vivikta desha sevitvam or vivikta deshe cha sukhasanastha. So describing the meditation, Kaivalya Upanishad says, vivikta deshe cha sukhasanastha. Vivikta desha means a place of solitude. So a place that is described, ideal for meditation, is a place which is free from all disturbances, where you are by yourself. Ekaki yata chittatma yogi yunjita atmanam rahasi sthitaha. Rahasi means in where there is solitude. Ekaki, where you are by yourself. Therefore, the place also is very important, which is free from all disturbances, which is also where you are all by yourself. So that is a place that is described ideally for meditation. That is called desha. So while prescribing meditation, they also prescribe desha or the place. So then what is your prescription of desha? So next one says that. Ādāvante ca madhye ca jano yasminna vidyate yenedam satatam vyaptam sadesho vijana smrutah. So desha, vijana, so vivikta desha or vijana desha. In dhyana or meditation they prescribe vivikta desha, solitude, or vijana. Vijana means devoid of any people. So desha, vijana, smrutaha. Vijana means also where there is no jana, no human being, which is solitude, where you are by yourself. So what is the ideal place where you are by yourself, where nobody else is present? Says, well, ādāvante ca madhye ca jano yasmin vidyate, where jana cannot be. See, vijana is solitude from where the jana has gone away. So vigataha janaha yasmat saha vijana, that from which the jana or person has gone away, man has gone away, is called solitude. Meaning that person, jana can come back. You may perhaps resort to solitude, such that there's nobody there, all right? But people say, hey, Swamiji is here, suppose, and then people can come there. Meaning what we call solitude is subject of being crowded. It is likely, that means, so there is no place which is without jana by itself. A place can always be occupied, you understand? That's called place. That's called space which accommodates. So it can always be occupied. Right now the place is solitude without any company, without anybody, therefore you can call it solitude. But at some other time it can have people. So real solitude is where person cannot be. You follow? Where person cannot be, if such a place is there, that's a real solitude. Is it not so? There is no such place in the world, on the earth. Even North Pole, you can go anywhere. So right now there may not be anybody, but somebody can be there, and people have been there. Even Everest also, they went all the way. There is no place that can be really called vijana or solitude, because it is subject to being occupied. Right now it may be unoccupied. You can call it solitude, but then it is subject to being occupied. So real solitude is a place which cannot be occupied. What is that? Ādāvanteja madhyecha jano yasmin vidyate. So jana, now this jana in the first line has a meaning slightly different from jana in the second line. Second line vijana. There, vijana means solitude, where jana or person is not there. But first jana is what? Jayate iti jana. That which is born is called jana. And that includes what? The whole universe. So in the first line the word jana stands for the universe, because it is subject to birth. So you and I are also called jana because we are subject to birth. Because we are born, therefore we are called jana. Because in word jana, the root jan is there, that which is born. So since you and I are born, so we are called jana. But by the same token, the whole universe is born. So that also can be called jana, isn't it? Ādāvanteja madhyecha jano yasmin vidyate. This jana of the universe does not exist where? In the beginning, in the middle, or even at the end. In the past, present and future. What is the rope? Rope is that where the snake never was, the snake never is, the snake never will be. Tino kaal mein nahi hai. It's not there all three periods of time, is it not so? When you say, hey, Rope, why do you look like a snake? What snake you are talking about? Rope has no idea of the existence of snake, really. Rope says, I am, that's all it is. Where did you get the snake? So what is rope? There, where the snake was not there in the beginning. Snake is not there even when it appears to be. And snake will not be, because the moment the snake tries to go to rope, it disappears. Is it not so? The moment the mithya tries to go to satyam, doesn't remain. Ādāvanteja madhye, Ādav in the beginning, a time of creation, until a time of dissolution, madhye in between, jano yasmin vidyate. So the superimposition does not exist in substratum, beginning, middle or end. Superimposition such as snake does not exist in substratum such as a rope, before, in the middle or later, because there is no connection between them. One is an appearance, one is satyam, one is mithya. Mithya is never there in satyam before, in the middle or later. Similarly, whole jana, the whole universe is what? Is also a projection, a superimposition. As you say a number of times, what is spot is a jana, created. What is a part? Name and form, superimposed upon asti, bhati, priyam. Please tell me, do these names and forms Do they have existence in Asti Bhadi Priyam? A name and form is a superimposition and has no place at all in substratum, which is Asti Bhati Priyam. So Jana, anything that is subject to being born, whole prapancha, it does not exist, it never was, it is not, it will never be. Where? Yasmin na vidyate. Oh, then it's transcendental, it's someplace yenedam satam vyaptam. But that which pervades. So this part has no existence in Asti Bhadi Priyam. But Asti Bhadi Priyam very much pervades the part, because part cannot be without that. So the beggar is not there at any time while the actor. Actor, having taken the role of a beggar, the beggar never existed in him. Even when the beggar is seen, it is not in him. And the beggar will never be in him. Meaning that what is actor is the one that is totally devoid of beggar. So if you want to go to a place where there is no beggar, where should you go? You go someplace, but there also beggar can come. Where will you go? Go to that actor. Beggar cannot come there. Actor is real one which is totally devoid of beggar. At the same time, actor pervades the beggar. Beggar is not independent. Similarly also, the universe has no place at all in Asti Bhadi Brahman, the Adhishthanam. Same time, Brahman pervades the universe, because the universe cannot be, name and form cannot be without Asti Bhadi Priyam. Asti Bhadi Priyam has name and form has no existence in Asti Bhadi Priyam. So, Adavante madhye jano yasmin na vidyate. Yasmin, in which jana, the creation, doesn't exist. So the word jana is used. So what is Brahman? Vijanam, without janam. Yenedam satam vyaptam. But what is desha? Desha means place, means space. Space is that which accommodates, which pervades, is called space. So Brahman must be vijana. It must be vijana desha. It must be something that desha means accommodates also. And vijaya means must be without any jana. So when they prescribe the place for meditation, the place must accommodate you. That's why it's called space, place, desha. Where you can be accommodated, and that which is without any company. So if Brahman has to be that kind of a place, then Brahman should accommodate you, same time without any jana. So yenedam satam vyaptam, Brahman is that which accommodates the whole universe, which pervades. So just as it is called space, so avakasha pradatru akasham. Space is that which accommodates, it is called space. So Brahman can be called a space because it accommodates the whole universe. So it is desha. So vijana desha. At the same time the jana has no scope in there also. So Brahman is called vijana desha. Vijana desha because it accommodates. Vijana because it is totally devoid of jana. Therefore, the vijana desha in ideally is what is it? Brahman. Sadesho vijana smrutaha. That desha, that which accommodates everything, that which sustains everything, that is Brahman. If space accommodates all that, but space also is not all the time. There is no space in deep sleep state. Therefore, who accommodates that? Only one thing, namely Brahman. अत्र जनस्य त्रैकालिक अभाव आनुभविकः स्वप्रतीत्या ज्ञेयः. The absence of jana is to be recognized by one's own self. It is one's own knowledge, one's own experience or one's own knowledge. It is not something that can other people know. Where were you, Swamiji? Suppose you ask, I was in Vijana Pradesh. I was in absolute solitude. Why? So many people were around you? No. So thereby it says, Anubhavik, something that is to be so pratityagneya. This Vijana Pradesha is something to be known as your own knowledge. Because it is not something of a place as such. It is not a place that is called Vijana. It is Brahman, your own self, that is called. So if you abide in yourself, in true sense you are in Vijana Pradesha. So you know that with other people don't know. They think that, yeah, you are in this place, Swamiji, and there are so many people there. So natu laukika shastriya pratitibhyam. So people may not see that. People may not be aware of your Vijana Pradesha. It is for you to be there by your own knowledge or experience. Virodhat. Because for them to see you and for you to be there, both this cannot be. If there are people to see you where that you are in a solitude place, so number one, people, as it is, even when you are in solitude, certainly people cannot see you. Oh Swami, I saw you, you are in solitude. That means I was not in solitude because you were there. So somebody being present, and Vijana Pradesha is a contradiction anyway. Similarly also you being in Vijana Pradesha, and somebody, yes Swamiji, I realize how you were in Vijana Pradesha, how you are totally in solitude. If you saw that, that means you were there. That means not Vijana Pradesha. So, this Vijana Pradesha is simply by one's own being, one's own. That's what the Tikakara says, one's own experience. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.